This is Comet Picks by the Glick.
Hey, and I'm your host, Jason Glick.
Hey, host Jason Glick, how the hell are you?
I'm doing just fine, John. And yourself?
Not bad, not bad. What do you have in store for us this week?
Okay, well, as I talked about last time, I've got something that I've had kicking around my room for a while, but just haven't gotten around to writing it myself. It's called Garth Ennis Presents Battle Classics. Now, longtime readers and listeners know that I'm a huge fan of Mr. Ennis. He is one of the handful of writers who, whatever he writes, I'm going to buy, no exception. And the man also generally has a pretty good hit to miss ratio compared to like a lot of other writers who I will just buy because of their name sight unseen. Now, well, Ennis has like lots of quirks like quirks and subjects he likes to talk about that always filter in through his work. One of the most prominent is his love of war comics. And just putting talking about the brutality of war and the human toll it takes on people, as well as just the fact that nothing bonds men together better than just being in combat, fighting for your life against a superior foe when death seems almost assured, and then like finding a way to triumph over that, or in a lot of cases not. But Ennis has written a lot of great war comics over the years. In fact, I've even talked about them on a previous podcast from a couple of years back. And but if you ever wonder, where did he get his this love of war comics? Where did he how did he what was the formative influence on him? Well, then you have to look back to time when he was growing up, and how he had lots of British war comics over the years. I mean, we're talking like in the late 70s, early 80s. Britain had war comics were were a thriving industry. I mean, just talking about the Greatest Generation fighting their way through World War II, and all these and chronicling Britain's struggle against the Nazis. It's and also in both in Nazis in World War II, the Germans in World War One, all this great stuff, and and this was and these comics were huge, in the country at the time. In fact, so successful that two of the biggest names in British comics, over the well not well in terms of their history and all. It's we've got you got John Wagner, creator of Judge Dredd, and Pat Mills, who's also had legendary runs on 2000 AD with Slain. They decided to start putting together their own war series that they called it Battle. Well, it wasn't called it was called Battle Picture Weekly, then called Battle Action after a merger with another war comic, and then ultimately just called Battle. And I just got this just from Ennis's forward to the book. Now it's now Ennis read a lot of this stuff has been reprinted through the good people at Titan Books over the years. In fact, I've got the first volume of Charlie's War, which Ennis himself is called the greatest of all war comics. They've also got other good things republished over the years, like Johnny Red. But this particular volume is basically Ennis picking his favorites from the anthology, and I'm talking about, and also providing introductions to these works, and just talk about their particular influence on his writing as well. Now, there are three main works here. The first is HMS Nightshade, which is about a corvette in World War II whose job it was to guard the supply, the supply carriers. In the North Atlantic during World War II, and also running the treacherous Arctic run. In northern Europe. And then you got The General Dies at Midnight, which it's pretty self-explanatory, but also what Ennis feels is one of the better examples of the good German story. And also um, and to round out the collection, three tales from one of the title's most celebrated um, like artists, Cam Kennedy, who is also has a special place in my heart as well, because even though because he's the man who illustrated the very first graphic novel I ever bought. But let's start off with HMS Nightshade. Now, this is written by the aforementioned John Wagner and illustrated by Mike Western, who's one of the what Ennis says he's one of the great one of the great artists from Battle. Now, Nightshade, as I said, it's about a corvette, escort, whose job was to escort supply carriers during World War II. Now, its story is told in flashback by one Geordie Dunn to his grandson. It's like in the present day. Now, we first meet up with Geordie, his friends, Stan, Jock, and Smithy, and they're just just green guys who are just ready to do their best for Queen and Country, and they find out that, oh yeah, we were going to we're going to serve on this ship, and they're like, oh, this ship is not really what we signed up, not really what was advertised, and we go through the whole get acquainted phase as they find. It's like they get used to seasickness on the ship, and then training with the guns, and then fighting against the Nazis as everyone pulls as they pull out from as everyone starts pulling out from northern France at Dunkirk. So if you've read any of Ennis's war comics, you can really see he's really that a lot of what Wagner and Western did here, he's really internalized a lot of the the rhythms of dialogue and the characters themselves. Because I mean, you've got Geordie, he's the well measured everyday guy who he's he gets frightened, he gets scared, but he's also just kind of soldiers on through better than everyone else, while leaving the real drama to be had by his buddies, such as his buddies like Jock, who gets the job of manning the radar, and gets it has a crisis early on when he swears that they hear there's a U-boat nearby, but they don't believe him, and even though they don't find proof of it, he's subsequently validated a bit later on. Then you also got other guys like their captain, who he's kind of the solid knows what to do in just about every situation, and has the right words and solemnity to add to any to the worst situation. And you've also got eccentrics like Crusher, who's always going on about his unusual muscle development, and he's nicknamed Crusher because he gets the job of smashing roaches when they go to the more hospital climates of northern Africa. And also Tubby, who he's the fat guy who's isn't really good at this stuff, but Wagner takes it a step further in the sense that he's not the guy. He doesn't Tubby's not the guy who's going to redeem himself. No, Tubby is the guy who's going to wind up being charged with desertion for because he just can't handle the stress of war. Wagner overall does a good job of showing of portraying these characters as normal guys. It's in an extraordinary situation, and then just trying to find a way to soldier on through, just fight see what the Nazis throw at them, and also their own personal crises, such as when Geordie runs afoul of Parsons, the the nasty bully of the ship, and how he has to eventually deal with him. You can see how Ennis took this ordinary guy's approach, and just and has applied it to just about everything he's done since. But that's not to say that this as much as readable as this is, and that's still press the feat. 30 years on. Well, almost 30 years. 30 years. Yeah, 30 years on from when it was originally published. Um, the thing is, though, it's these Nightshade reads interestingly, to put it charitably, in the sense that all of its chapters were published in like 3 to 4 page bursts in battle. Because this is a weekly feature. I mean, you just get this short little burst of incident, and then you have to wait a week in order to find out what happens next. Now, I'm sure that worked well in its original publication. Here, though, it's like you just get that kind of weird, stop start type feel of it. I mean, it reaches a crescendo every couple pages, and then hey, it's another title page again. So you can find out as as the cliffhanger from the last week is resolved instantaneously. So I mean, like I said, it requires a bit of charity in order to get past that stuff. And also, even though like most of the dialogue isn't too obtrusive, a lot of it is extremely expository in nature. I mean, even though it's like Wagner injects it with like a welcome dose of black humor, it's like and the eccentricity that Mark Judge Dredd. It's like there's still it's like I said, it still requires like a certain willingness to look past, this is how things were done back in the era. In fact, like this whole style is kind of what gave rise to Ennis's own Adventures in the Rifle Brigade, where he basically, which is just a working parody of all the war comics that he's read. In fact, reading HMS Nightshade, as much as I did like it, I could also see where Adventures in the Rifle Brigade comes from, just from the general character tropes and situations that are shown here. I mean, but overall though, it's still a fascinating read for the for its look at it's relatively realistic look at the war. I mean, like no punches are pulled, people do die. It's like and like I said, it's sometimes it's not enough to just be clever. Be clever or brave. Sometimes you're just going to be fucked, even, no matter how well prepared you are. It's like it's still a good story. It's like, and it's also the longest of the of the ones here. So overall, I mean, it's like like I said, it's like even though it's like its main, it's like, for me, it's like its main appeal is just like seeing where. How it's seeing its influence on Ennis's creations, Ennis's war comics that in the modern era, it's still it's like I think it still holds up pretty well for the most part. It just requires a certain willingness to look past and or embrace its its characteristic, its quirks and style of the time. Anyway, the next one though is the General Dies at Dawn, which was written by Alan Hebden and illustrated by John Cooper. Did I get that wrong? Yeah, no, it was written by Alan Hebden, illustrated by John Cooper. It tells the story of a German general who is convicted for treason, for cowardice, disobedience, and defeatism, and sentenced to die at dawn. And he relays his story to his jailer, or at least most of the story to his jailer, like over the course of one long night. And we find out the story of how Otto von Margen, the general of a German panzer squadron, and known as the Wolf of Kiev, and also one of the most decorated of German commanders. It's like, how did he wind up in this situation? Now the story starts off with him on the wrong end of experience, just being a new officer, and I'm finding out just like how bad things can get when it's like when the it's like when you don't have any experience to fall back on. He winds up hooking up with a with another like German military man like Feldweber Quarter, and he winds up and Quarter winds up providing the assault of the earth, like, hey, these are the like the man of the it's like the man of the German army. This is what we're like, and he winds up bouncing that with von Margin quite well over the story. Still, though, I mean the story is still paced a lot much like Nightshade, in the sense that it's told in like basically 4 page installments. So we get kind of so we get like story like one major story of von Margin's career, from his like initial turning of the tide in the Polish front to being stationed in Norway, and wanting and his in his way his and the way he manages to salvage like a German attack on the harbor there, and also how he runs afoul of the SS. It's like on his way up. Now, Ennis provides like some really interesting commentary, like at the beginning of this, like in the front of the story, talking about the whole concept of the good German story. At It's like as the like as I guess things go on. Basically, how in the wake of how in the at the end of in the wake of World War II, it's like, like now we had like now there are all these conflicts to be fought, and how are they going how are they going to be able to fight them? By rearming the German people who had fought against them, like, not even a decade prior. So you had these stories about the good Germans coming in. It's like coming into the magazine and just showing how the how the German, it's like how these German officers were like, the good German stereotype is that, hey, like they were fighting for the fatherland but not for Hitler. It's like they were just like, trying to like trying to do the right thing, like against a regime that was rotten to the core. And as Ennis points out, that whenever the evidence of the Holocaust is discovered, it comes as a great surprise to all involved. So Ennis, so on one hand, there's a certain amount of cynicism, like you can tell that Ennis is really cynical about the genre for the most part, but he generally feels that the General Dies at Dawn is a superior example of the format. I'm not quite inclined to agree. While I felt that Nightshade was did manage to overcome its quirks of the time and of the format. The Journal Dies at Dawn does kind of have it has a formula that adheres to, that just kind of gets kind of does feel kind of repetitive after a certain point. I mean, just the fact that how things are. It quickly gets into a rhythm of von Margin, finding some clever way to save the day, and then running afoul of the SS, and and just and finding some way to save the day. Jeez, what am I trying to say here? Von Margin is certainly a clever guy, but he's but like these stories kind of get repetitious after a while. And then there's also that ticking clock where that, hey, it's like, how's he going to survive things, and what's going to happen, especially when the Americans start creeping up on his jail cell towards the end of the story. I will admit the end, they do mention that I draw a decent amount of suspense for the end, and it's cool seeing von Margin employ his strategies over the course of the war, but the story still feels like kind of formulaic for the most part. It's like and while it's not bad, it's certainly not as involving as Nightshade. The story the story itself just doesn't have the same level of craft that Wagner and Western brought to their work. So, like, not necessarily a bad thing, but concentration is being that one thing where where it's like where like Ennis is going about something that he really liked, that really struck a chord to him, and it's whenever you talk about something that's like you feel is really passionate and other people are just not getting it, that's kind of the feeling I get here. Of course, then again, like you didn't write Preacher, Hitman, um, Punisher. It's like in The Boys, so hey, it's like hey, I'm willing to indulge Ennis here. And then we get to the last part of the volume, which is which are three shorts by Cam Kennedy, illustrated by him, not written by him. Now, Ennis talks about how Kennedy basically rose to fame in this magazine by offering a very like a realistic and compelling style that stood above all others. It's like one that just like really that really grabbed you for the most part, and also the fact that Kennedy himself is also one of the greats of British comics, who was also, as Ennis puts it, illustrated enough Judge Dredd classics to qualify for the Judges Hall of Heroes. Now, I don't have any experience with Kennedy's British work, so to say. However, Kennedy occupies a special place in my heart because he illustrated, as I said, he illustrated the first graphic novel I ever bought. That graphic novel being Star Wars: Dark Empire. So, I mean, like, even though I had no idea who this guy was, I mean, I'm never going to forget him simply for the fact that he illustrated Dark Empire, and wow, he did a fantastic job with his watercolors there, and he also showed how sometimes it works better for that you don't have to be have a photorealistic style in order to capture get a good likeness for for licensed for licensed characters and their technology. It's great. I love it. I love his work, and I'm always going to remember him just for that, if nothing else. These three stories here are not bad. I mean, it's like his style here is of course a lot rougher than than his work in Star Wars, because we're talking about it's kind of like almost 12 years later. But he does offer a good amount of grit. So let's say a good amount of grit, detail, and cinematic style to these stories. I mean, the first one, Clash by Night. It's kind of Ennis kind of called these for the most part. In the sense that Clash by Night is kind of a fairly standard tale of people fighting soldiers fighting in the Pacific Front, matching wits with the Japanese, and a kind of and of course a surprise twist at the end that that you'll probably be able to see coming well before the end of the story's 4 pages. The next one, Hot Wheels, is basically about these two soldiers who are basically in charge of running supplies to the front in in the European theater, and these two guys have a nice rapport together, and a nice and a certain ability to think on their feet when things get tough. And it says that the story reads like a pilot for a longer series, and that he was disappointed that they didn't that they didn't get that the full on series didn't materialize. I gotta admit, I'm right after reading it, I was kind of disappointed too, because even though it's only 4 pages, it's nice. It's really a nice setup for a longer story. In fact, I'm kind of surprised that Ennis hasn't tried to do something with akin to the story told here in his war comics as well. The last story is what Ennis calls one of the greatest pieces of war fiction ever written, Private Loser. Now, this is a story about essentially like a private who's also certainly a bit of a loser, but who's wounded in action in the Pacific Theater, and eventually he's left behind by his crew because he's slowing them down, and his commander can't say, yeah, we can't have you risking our lives as well. So this is just another chapter in the guy's long life of disappointments, and second put downs, and so he just completely loses it as he's like digs his grave and sets traps for the Japanese for his Japanese pursuers. And in fact, he gives a great fight to them, but at the same time, like he's on completely over the edge. I can see what Ennis is getting at here. I don't think it's quite one of the greatest pieces of like war fiction put to page, but like I say, I can at least understand why Ennis feels this way. But there you go. And in fact, Ennis also closes things out in his afterword by saying that he's basically he feels kind of bad simply by the fact that he has to he's wondering hey, why do I have to put my name saying I'm presenting these stories even though I had nothing to do with them. Well, as he points out that hey, that there are like promotional considerations that he had to consider, and just he fixed his name as kind of a whatever gets the job done in order to get these stories back into print, that kind of business. And to be honest, yeah, it's like that's Garth. That was the right thing to do because, I mean, it's like to be honest, my interest in war comics really only extends as far as Ennis's does because he's shown me the potential of the genre, and it's like, and this one right here, it's like I said, I find it fascinating as it shows that like it's like some of the key influences on his on his comics as well. So it's cool to read these and see, okay, this is how we get to stories like Archangel and Nightingale in his war stories, for lack of a better term. But to be honest, like after reading this, like I said, not everything is perfect, but I would honestly be up to reading another Garth Ennis Presents Battle Classics Volume 2, like if we were to get to it at some point. So, but hey, I'm sure that Ennis also said he appreciated the chance to get some of his favorite stories back into print after 30 odd years out of it. So on one hand, hey, if you like Ennis's war stories and you're wondering, where did he it's like why does he keep writing them? Battle Classics is your answer right here. So, John, it's like, any particular thoughts on these ramblings?
War stories would probably be a good thing then. Eat your vegetables, kids. No, there's some really good gems. It sounds like in these tales, actually. So. Maybe some of your audience would consider reading them.
Yeah, like I say, it's going to be. Like I say, if you're a fan of Ennis and you want to know where his interested in war stories comes from, this is it. Mm-hmm. On the other hand, if you're also curious about hey, what's the big deal? Like, why was Britain so big on like all these war stories in the it's like in the late 70s and early 90s? Well, this is also a good example of it too. Plus, hey, if you like John Wagner and wondering what else has this guy done besides Judge Dredd, mm-hmm. Well, like that's another reason. That's another reason right there.
Well, I mean, in a lot of ways, as Americans at least, and maybe there's some other countries around the world that may not appreciate the history of like their country being attacked and during a time of war. There's a lot of people that are from Britain that actually do have that. It's like, hey, yes. Grandpa fought in the war. They all had to go to air raid. So it's a bigger impression upon the British mind or any other country that has experienced war directly on their own soil. So this is a reason why that there's a lot of these stories in British, not just in British literature, but in the whole.
Yeah, that's actually a really good point, and that's why. It's like why Britain was able to get several magazines focusing on war stories at around this time too, and why it's such a tradition. Mm-hmm. I mean, like I said, it's like the simple fact that Ennis was able to write an entire two miniseries parodying English British war comics kind of speaks to speaks to their influence, for lack of a better term.
Exactly, yeah, a very influential thing, the war was, not, and by the way, not just the British authors, American ones as well, right?
Indeed, I mean it's like I mean mostly just about all the stories here focus on the British perspective, even though there are couple of Cam Kennedys that actually do focus on the American. It's like the American perspective, but it's like I said, it's kind of funny like how I think about the one American character in Ennis's Adventures in the Rifle Brigade, and all he said was just how he was characterized as being like, hey, he's the guy who's going to show the Brits how it's done, and his only thing he said in the in the story was "God damn it." Like I said, it's just pure parody. I mean, there's also another guy who just said "You're out the border." It's like throughout the entire series as well. So it's
Well, like I said, a lot of influential comics did come from World War II. I mean, hey, characters, Captain America, anyone? Hello.
indeed, indeed. But at the same time, Ennis would probably want to knife you for mentioning that because mainly because yes, well, yeah, Captain America stems from America's from our infatuation with superheroes, and it's I kind of wonder why we never saw a Captain America story from Ennis during his tenure at Marvel so far. But then eventually I realized that Ennis would probably fucking hate Captain America because because all the characters that he encountered in these British war comics were just ordinary regular guys, and so to bring in say a virtual superhero. To show, hey, he's gonna help fight fight the battles and beat up the Nazis. That's Ennis would probably just be fucking pissed at this, saying, hey, you're just cheapening these the hero our soldiers' contributions. In fact, he basically did that in The Boys when he had this character Soldier Boy tortured at the hands of Butcher. Basically saying that hey, it's there were plenty of guys who fought in the war. And you never saw combat. So yeah, I mean Ennis. Ennis he hates superheroes, and the reason that all the war stories he wrote with he managed to get lots of war stories at Marvel too, but they involve forgotten characters the Phantom Eagle was a Phantom Eagle or a Flying Eagle, like a World War I flying ace. Nick Fury during his World War II days, and also Frank Castle, the Punisher in Vietnam.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, I mean, Ennis was able to write lots of war stories at Marvel, but it was also just finding ways to not do them that didn't involve superheroes at all. Just just guys who were almost superheroic in their ability to survive near certain death scenarios, but also he used them to tell stories that basically reflected America's lust for power and the soldiers' own thrill at being in combat and never having to worry about running out of enemies to fight. So Fury was a guy who's having too much fun fighting the war to stop, and he pays the price for it in the end.
Interesting. Yeah. So yeah, for him, it's more of a down to earth, struggle of the soldier.
Yeah. I mean, on one hand, it's kind of cool. It helps. It's a testament to the versatility of certain Marvel characters that Ennis was able to twist them or utilize them in the stories that he wanted to tell. Mm-hmm. But in the end, he's it also means that Ennis only has a certain range within Marvel, which basically shows you why he hasn't written any other characters besides he hasn't written a whole lot of characters beyond Punisher and Fury and any other any of the stuff he's done with them has basically been here's a superhero, laugh at him at how stupid he is.
Mm-hmm.
In fact, In fact, I've heard that Ennis is prepping another Punisher-related work for the future, but that has yet to be announced. So maybe once Comic Con rolls around, we hear about it. Or hey, if he doesn't, I'm cool with Ennis just not being just focusing on more creator-owned stuff, like his War Stories Battlefield stuff at Dynamite, or his Red Team miniseries, which Amazon just tells me is going to be arriving to me on Tuesday, which will be the day before you listen to this, because it's Monday, and it's supposed to arrive at me tomorrow, but you'll be listening to this on Wednesday, so I'm getting confused now. So I'll stop talking.
Yes, because we don't like those time travel stories,
It's like
At least when it comes to delivering your package here and
Snake,
talking about
you
it.
created a time paradox.
Pretty much. So with that, we'll talk to you later on Comic Picks by the Click. And is there any thing that you're going to talk about next time? Or
Uh, I've got something. I got two things I may want to talk about, assuming I don't get around to writing them up. However, I'm going to go to WonderCon in Anaheim on Saturday, so I'm going to be buying a fuck ton of stuff there.
there
So
you-
maybe I'll pull up something. Maybe I won't.
maybe you'll find a gem, huh?
Indeed.
All right, and until we talk to you again, have a good evening.
All right, later's everyone.
Bye.